There are some tribes out there that live in the old ways and practice certain traditions and beliefs that some may find unique. Or they could find them terrifying and thus not want to mess with them. I'm going to warn you ahead of time that this first one is just a little bit disturbing to look at due to some augmentations that they've done over time. In this case, I'm talking about the Mercy tribe, who are definitely an intimidating folk due to their unique accessories. They live within the Omo Valley, an isolated region in Ethiopia, and are one of the last tribes that still wear traditional clothing and accessories. But the accessory that they're most known for is why many people are a bit afraid of them, because in this culture, the men and women are willing to basically mutilate themselves in order to put a wooden lip plate literally within their body. And before you ask, no, piercings are not exactly my thing. A girl's lower lip is cut, most of the time, by her mother when she reaches the age of 15 or 16, and it's held open by a sodden plug until it heals. It's up to the girls how far they want the lip to be stretched. The very painful process can often take over several months. Now, if you think about that, it takes months to make this process, and when they're done, well, they're not going to look like anyone else outside of their tribe, for better and for worse. Believe it or not, there are a lot of beliefs about that lip plate, including how it's a symbol of beauty for the younger women, or how if they marry and then the husband dies, they get rid of their lip plate because their beauty will soon fade with the husband being gone. You might also recall seeing someone with a lip plate in the Council of Black Panther in the Marvel movie. People of these tribes violate all the laws of physics, and in different ways. On the left, we have a tribe who does crazy things with their feet, and on the right, one who does crazy things with their lips. The image on the left showcases an extreme case of foot binding common amongst certain Chinese tribes, something that most people would consider a serious violation of physics. And on the right, you can see a member of the Mercy tribe who takes part in a particularly extreme lip piercing ritual. Would you do either of these things to your body? Let me know all about it in the comment section down below. Now we're going to talk about a tribe that no one wants to mess with because of their warrior heritage and pride. Meet the tribe known as the Maori. They're a warrior culture through and through, so much so that in the past they were split into smaller tribes, ones that would fight to their heart's content and thus get glory and power. But what kind of power? Well, the Maori believed in mana, or life energy, and they also believed that the man of a fallen foe was up for the taking. So they would eat their enemies and gather their power and mana for themselves. It's absolutely disgusting, but it did help to build up their reputation as being one of the deadliest warrior tribes in history, especially since they had plenty of weapons that could seriously hurt you. In fact, from when they're a certain young age, the men are taught how to master a variety of weapons and fighting styles. Not to mention, they get to do the legendary Haka dance, which is said to both intimidate their foes while also granting them certain blessings. Just to be clear though, while the Maori were strong, they were also smart. They would make defensive positions for the people to fight in or run to in time of need, and they still roam the world today. Their impact on culture is not to be denied. If you don't believe me, just ask Jason Momoa. You know, the guy who played Aquaman, because he's Polynesian and he's done Maori Haka dances before. Sticking with the Native American culture for a bit, we'll talk about the Arapaho tribe. They lived on the plains of Colorado and Wyoming and were close allies of the Cheyenne tribe and loosely aligned with the Lakota and Dakota. There are actually two different tribes because around 1878 they would take a split. Some went to the north and others went to the south, where they're both still around today. A large part of the Arapaho society was based around the warrior. Most young men sought this role after adopting use of the horse. The Arapaho quickly became master horsemen and highly skilled at fighting on horseback. Warriors had larger roles than combat in the society, and they were expected to keep peace amongst the camps, providing food and wealth for their families, and guarding the camps from attack, which, given the time period, they needed those warriors more than anything due to all the threats they could potentially face. As noted, the tribe has been split many times over the years, but that also adds adds to the wonder because they have different ways of doing things for the military and other matters. Warriors often painted their faces and bodies with war paint, as well as their horses, for spiritual empowerment. Think about the timing and patience that it would take to get that fully completed, and then go fight in a battle. Well, sometimes tribes and people do surprise you in the weirdest of ways. Now we'll head to Papua New Guinea to learn about the Goroka tribe, much like another tribe that we just talked about. The Goroka people existed in isolation from the outside world through no fault of their own. The persistence of tribal wars and harsh natural conditions is the cause of their separation. Their way of life differs little from the way of life of ordinary people, and they also have a large set of traditions and beliefs that govern them. So if you were to actually visit, you might be in for a surprise in terms of what they do and exactly why they do it. They like to have large families, and it's well noted that within those groups, the most senior or oldest member is the head of the family. Furthermore, every single person in the family has responsibilities that they have to take care of. They're all stronger together because they well and truly work as a group. Annually in September, a well-known tribal gathering and cultural event in Papua New Guinea, which attracts a huge number of tourists, is held here. It is the Goroka Show, where numerous tribes arrive to show their music, dance, and their culture. It's not a short show, it's actually a 3-day event, a festival if you will, and that just goes to show just how dedicated they are to their culture and showing it off when they want to. As you can see in some of these pictures and videos, they have elaborate face paintings and headdresses that they wear for such occasions. There are many reasons why someone might not want to mess with another person, or in this case, another tribe. In the example of the North Sentinelese, they're not to be messed with for one very simple reason. If you approach their island, they're going to shoot at you with their primitive weapons, and if you get too close, you're going to be murdered. The good news is that the North Sentinelese live on an island that is owned by India, and so you'd have to have some really bad luck in order to run into them, but that doesn't mean they're not dangerous outright, because there are multiple people and groups who have tried to reach out to this tribe, all in an attempt to gain communication and learn more about them. But every single time that happens, those people are then attacked. In November of 2018, one American man was killed by members of the tribe, but there's even more of a twist here. They're not trying to keep people away because they're in aggressive nature. They're just very aware of what outsiders can bring in. They know that it was the British that wiped out some nearby tribes on their home islands, and furthermore, due to their exposure to nothing else but the island and their own people, they don't have the proper immunity to deal with things like diseases that could literally eradicate their entire population. So between the attacks and the logic of it all, people leave this tribe alone, making them the most isolated tribe in the world. Now we'll bring things to the United States, where there are actually plenty of tribes of people who have lived on this land, one of which was the Pawnee tribe, whose history expands hundreds of years, despite all that's occurred in the United States during that time. Early on in the 18th century, more than 60,000 members of the Pawnee tribe inhabited the area along the North Platte River in Nebraska, and while they're labeled a friendly tribe according to the U.S. government, which is an ironic thing to hear them say in any context, they're known for being very courageous people and fighting with all that they have. They've been known to fight for each other, for their land, and even more. One such great feat was that of Crooked Hand of the Skeety Band, who arose from bed to muster the old men, women, and boys and led the charge to defend their home. Though outnumbered 2-1, they outfought a superior armed enemy and then drove them away. This is the kind of battle story that you would usually read in a history class, but this is much cooler because it shows the strength of these people. They have a pride about them that will not go away no matter what people do to them or how the government takes away their lands and freedom. Never forget, Native Americans were here first. So if you're in the United States and you see one of the Pawnee, show them some respect. You may just live longer. Did you know that there are tribes of people who reside within the Amazon rainforest? Well, there are, and there are also those that roam around it. one of them being the Hua-Orani tribe. They are comprised of almost 4,000 inhabitants that speak the language within their tribe, a linguistic isolate that is not known to be related to any other language, further setting them apart from the pack. They live in a key part of Ecuador, and they love living there, so much so that they've tried to fight off those who have invaded their lands. But in modern society, that's becoming more and more difficult to do, especially because of how advanced that technology has become. Another byproduct of the encroachment of mankind is that they've had to change their living styles. In this case, they live in permanent forest settlements, whereas before they would actually go out and hunt and gather food and supplies. But now that's just not as possible. This is no doubt part of the reason why the tribe has refused contact with the outside world alongside other tribes within the area. Some out there may think that it's foolish for tribes like this to ignore attempts at integration, but the fact of the matter is they've been living with traditions for decades, if not centuries, so for them to give all of that up, especially when the neighbors are literally banging on their doorstep, well, that would be a very hard pill to swallow indeed.